Hi, I'm Pam Savino, and I would like to welcome you to the Live Authentically show. My team and I help other people live authentic lives and discover the essence of who they are, and we do that via a number of different modalities. This show is obviously one of them. Our Facebook community is another, and I would love to have you join us there. We can be found at liveauthentically.today/FB. And when you join us, you'll see that you're surrounded by a group of like-minded people committed to spiritual growth and transformation. And I'm super excited. On today's show, I have with us Carmen Ventrucci. Hi, Carmen.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. How about you?
Very well, thank you.
Thanks so much for taking time out of your day to be on my show. I so appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Carmen is a self-described badass mom to 4 children and 2 of her nieces. Yes, I would absolutely consider that to be badass. I love that. She's a master at using mindset and action to help others find their personal and financial success. She founded a business called True Sisu Life, which she will also tell us about today. So I would like to officially welcome you to the show, Carmen.
Thank you.
And what I would like to do first is I always start the show off for everybody with the same question, and that is, what does it mean to you to live authentically every day?
That is just a great question. So for me, my journey of authenticity really started with defining my core values. So those things for me that when they're out of alignment just seem to throw everything out of whack. And personally, I have 10 core values that I make sure I live every day. So at the end of each day, I can do a quick gut check and just ask myself, did I live according to this core value today? And, for example, family is one of my core values, not only like family of origin, also family of choice. And I could say, did I tell my family I love them today? Was I healthy today? Humor is another one of my core values. Did I laugh today, or did I take some time to have fun? And for me, what I found is when I am living those core values, I can be my authentic self, and people notice. People just get that vibe from me that what they see is what they get. And it's because I live in such harmony with those core values.
Oh, I love that. That's super powerful. And I think that can be such a kind of a guiding force in our life if we anchor on those core values and align ourselves with people and experiences that help us to tap in and to connect with those core values.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, how did you come to those 10? How did you decide on, yes, these are my 10 core values? I'm sure some of them kind of emerged organically or naturally, but did you have to dig deep to find or to find some of them?
For some of them, I had to dig deep. Some of them were just very, very organic, like you said. So let me see if I can remember all of them on the spot here. So it's family, health, intelligence, independence, humor, authenticity, clarity, the power of the village, actions speak louder than words, and boldness is rewarded. So those are all 10. And so generally the first ones I listed, so family, humor, intelligence, those are very natural to me, right? Mm-hmm. I just know, yes, I love my family. My friends are family. I love to laugh. Who doesn't love to laugh? Right. And I have that knack of, I'm that one making a doke in a bad situation. So, and intelligence, I enjoy being intelligent. I think intelligence is attractive. And it's not meaning you're smarter than the other person. It means you're curious. You want to go out and explore the world, and you like to learn. So those came very naturally to me. Originally, I had 7 core values. I actually added 3 within the past 6 months or so because I realized I was talking about them so much. I'm like, I got to put these on my core value list. They really are core values. I just never labeled them that way before. And those were those last 3, that boldness is rewarded, the power of the village, and actions speak louder than words.
And were those the ones that you had to dig deeper to discover, or?
Yes, I did have, I did have to dig deeper, and it took me a while for it to click in my mind and really put a label that, no, I truly value this. Mm-hmm. For example, actions speak louder than words. I found myself, you mentioned there's 6 kids that I care for. 4 are mine, 2 are nieces that live with me and my husband. And I was always teaching them, you're telling me one thing, but you're doing the other. So what is that really telling me? We're having those lessons that they need. My kids are all 10 and under, so they're still learning these lessons every day. And I was like, wait, if I'm telling my kids this every day, and I'm telling people I coach and encounter every day, that really is a core value. It was like, light bulb went off over my head all of a sudden that, this is part of who I am. And I need to make sure I'm living in alignment with that.
Right. So important. It's so important. Tell me a little bit about the power of the village. That kind of piqued my curiosity.
Oh my
How did
gosh,
you,
I
is there
love
a
my
story,
village.
is there a story behind where that
Oh,
originated?
there's so many stories behind that. Okay, so um, one of my sayings is, I don't care who you are or how good you are, you will need help. And the power of the village is all about finding those connections to those people, your people of choice, who are like minded and are willing to help invest in you and help you grow. And you're willing to do the same for them. And so, being a mom of 6 children, right? So, I have several villages. Um, I have my mom village. Like, for example, when we got the phone call that our nieces were going to come live with us,
Mm-hmm.
they're actually our oldest kids, and all my husband's and our kids are younger. And we're like, what are they going to sleep on? Like, we don't have a bed. Like, I put a post out to my mom village on Facebook, and I had people show up with beds that I didn't even know. I mean, just amazing support. And, I do the same thing for these other moms. I might not show up with a bed, but I'm supporting them in other ways. Even if you're a corporate employee or whatever you do for your job, for your living, you need a village. You need a village to help support you through those tough projects, to help teach you and develop. I mean, you need a village to go to bat for you. If you're in the corporate world, decisions about your career will be made when you're not in the room. And so you need that village as your envoy, as your liaison and representation to speak highly of you.
Right.
And so, in every aspect of life, you need your village. And I just think it's one of the most beautiful things ever. I mean, you get to build your own community of people who you love. It's beautiful.
Right. Mm-hmm. I totally agree. And I've had that experience as well. And one of the things I realized too, for so many years, I felt like, I need to do this all myself and shoulder whatever it is myself. But it's okay to ask for help. I know that was a game changer for me, was to give myself permission to ask for help. And what I found was really eye-opening. And I found that people, I always kind of knew it, but you actually witness people stepping into that role of humanitarianism and helping others and really in embodying it. And all you need to do is ask, and it's there. Like you said, all I did was I put a post out and boom, like beds are on my front porch. Yeah. That's amazing. I literally got chills as you said that, because that's the power of connection. That's the power that when we come together, we are just immensely powerful. And
exactly. You put it so well. And it's just beautiful to witness when people do come together. No matter the cause, no matter what, no matter what's bringing them together, it's just amazing.
Right, it is. Thanks for sharing that. One thing that I would love to talk to you about is balance. We're going to get into specifically what you do on a daily basis in your business and how you help people on a daily basis. But how do you balance it all? I mean, you're one of these people who does it all. You're managing this really busy household, and you've got this business, and you help other people, coach them into success in a number of different areas. How do you maintain balance in your life? How do you carve out time for you?
Oh my goodness. So that, as you can imagine, I have been asked this question many times before. So basically, I don't know if you've seen the movie The Martian with Matt Damon.
I have not.
Okay. So it's a movie about, he's an astronaut. He gets stranded on Mars. Spoiler alert, he makes it back to Earth at the end. So at the end of the movie, he's teaching a class, and he says something to the effect of, you do the math, you solve one problem at a time, and you move on to the next. That's kind of my philosophy. You figure out one thing at a time and you move on to the next. There will always be opportunities and challenges everywhere for you to figure out. So just figure out one thing, move to the next. The second thing that I do well is I know when to say no, and I know when to say yes. So my kids hear the word no a lot. And it's really twofold. Number one, it's preserving my schedule and logistics and sanity. Number two, it's a test to see if they really want what they're asking for. And so, kids have shiny object syndrome. They hear about any event or any sport. They want to go do it. They want to try it out. And my little test for them is I usually tell them no. If they ask again, I know that they really want to do it, or it's a little more important to them. And then we might have a conversation about it and figure it out for them. Adults are the same way. And so if you have, a supervisor or a colleague asking for something, say no. If they ask again, maybe it really is important and you need to prioritize it or help them prioritize it.
Mhm.
Going back to saying yes, if something scares me, it's probably worth saying yes to. And so I know we'll talk about it a little bit later in our conversation. I actually wrote a book last year. I was invited to be a contributing author in a book. And at first I was like, what am I going to write about? I don't know what I'm going to write about. It's scary. Well, I guess I better say yes to it if it scares me. So, and I did. And it like, I didn't know what I was going to say, but then once I sat
Mhm.
down and started writing, the words just came out and I wrote this chapter in about a day. I mean, and it was one of those things where it was scary and I said yes to it and it ended up being worth it.
Wow. Wow. I would love to hear more about that. Do you want to share a little bit more about your book?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So it's called Dare to Be Authentic, Volume 5, Let Yourself Prosper. And there were 10 contributing authors to this book. So each wrote one chapter about authenticity and how we found our journey to find it and how we prosper from it in our daily lives. And it's a really great collection of stories from people of all walks of life. I've read all the stories. Everyone is different and unique. And so in my journey, my first sentence starts out something like, if you would have told me when I was in high school that I was going to have 6 children, I would have used some very creative language to tell you that under no circumstances would that ever happen. Well, look at me now. So, it was just that journey of how what I thought I wanted really wasn't what I wanted, and the growing pains of coming to that realization. And then at the end of my chapter, I do give some tips for people on how to define, find their authenticity themselves. It's one of those things that's pretty common and you don't realize it. Sometimes people just don't know who they are or what they want. And really what I recommend people do is take that time for that self-reflection and figure it out. Once you figure it out, take action, any action, small action, messy action, imperfect action to go get it. And so it's really a great book, very inspiring. Like I said, there's 10 authors. You will relate to somebody in this book. You will find a piece of yourself in somebody in this book.
I'm sure. Yeah, that
Mhm.
sounds amazing. I would definitely love to read it. So like, maybe at the end of the show, you can tell us, or maybe even now, do you want to just let us know how we can get a copy of the book?
Absolutely. So there's 2 ways. If you go to my website, it's truesisulife.com, click on my book. You can either submit your email and we'll automatically email you just my chapter to your inbox, or you can click and buy the book on my website. You can also get it on Amazon. I can get it for you cheaper. And you're supporting the authors of that book. So go to my website, www.truesisulife.com, and either get just my chapter, or I can send you the book and even sign it for you.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to talk a little bit about discovering authenticity. I know you talked
Mhm.
about, you give some tips on helping people find their
Mhm.
authenticity. And I know that can be a pretty daunting journey. I know for some, and I know for me it was, and finding your path. And it can be a scary place to go because authenticity requires us to take off the masks and peel back all of the limitations and societal conditioning and fears and doubts that have been limiting us for years. What guidance do you have to help someone get started on that path to authenticity?
Great question. So first thing I recommend is know who you are, right? If you don't have your core values written down somewhere where you can easily access them, you need to do that. So start with writing down your core values. If
Okay.
they change over time, I am fine with that. Like I said, I've added some to my list as time has gone on. But start there. Start with those core values. And again, those core values are things when they're just off, you feel off. And they're going to be different for everybody. And that's okay. And then I like to think as I like to make games out of things. And so I like to think of my personality and my version of authenticity as a system. So
Okay.
we all have strengths and weaknesses. Play to what works for you and downplay what doesn't. So let me give you an example for me. Doing, strengths finders over the years, I'm an achiever. So I have the capability to get massive amounts of stuff done quickly.
Mhm.
Well, that's part of my authentic self. That's just part of who I am. So if I can put myself in situations like being a mom of 6 children, um, where I need to get a massive amount of things done quickly,
Yeah.
it allows me to be who I am. So use your personality as a system.
I love it that you've described it in those terms.
Mm-hmm.
And I went through this experience recently in my business. When I just started out, I was trying to do everything all at once. We were growing and there was various aspects of the business that needed my attention. But as it grew and as I started branching out and doing other things like podcasts and writing, etc., I realized that I can't do it all myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not good at certain things. I had to really just own the fact and embrace the fact and accept the fact that there are certain things that I'm just not very good at. And I'll just go ahead and put it out there and say that technology is one of them. I'm very like old school. I'm most comfortable when I'm in my creative space and I can, write in Google Docs, that's fine. But I oftentimes take a notepad. I always have, a pen and paper and a notepad. I have a journal. I kind of call it my think pad. If I'm on an airplane or I have some downtime, I'm constantly just jotting down ideas. And I'm just not great at technology. So I had to just realize that I need to bring someone else in to help me with stuff like that so that I could free myself up to be in my creative space. And I think that's so important. And it's just so important to the journey through authenticity is knowing all aspects of yourself and owning them and accepting them and embracing them. This is who I am. And once I finally freed myself of that, it was just so incredibly liberating. And I felt so much energetically, so much lighter. And I just think that's such a great way that you've described it is kind of realizing what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses, and finding ways to enhance your strengths and to dedicate more time and energy to the things that you're really good at and free yourself up in some way, shape, or form from the things that you aren't good at, which energetically do play a role, even if we don't realize it, in weighing us down. They create anxiety, create stress, and just allow us from doing the things that were natural and that come naturally to us and that we're very good at.
I love that example you gave because one of the things I talk about a lot with people I coach is outsourcing, delegation, and automation. And it goes back to what I said before about being able to say no. So you had the perfect example. You're saying no to technology in this form so you can focus on what is your purpose,
right?
Which is being the creative. And so I just love that. I think that's a perfect example where it's okay to delegate, automate, or outsource something that, number one, maybe you're not good at it, or number two, you just don't like to do it. Like I haven't unloaded the dishwasher in like 3 years. I just make my kids do it. Like you know what? This is a good thing to delegate to the children. It's part of living here. You get to unload the dishwasher.
Yes. And that is so important. And I've kind of been sort of late to the party on that whole movement to delegate and to get the whole family involved in the functioning of the household. Because for years, I let life run me. I had 4 kids within 7 years. And I joke that, I felt accomplished if I got out of my pajamas before noon on some days. And I didn't do a very good job of delegating anything to my kids. I just thought it was quicker. It's quicker if I just tie the shoes and pack the lunches and hurry, get everybody out the door. Because I always had kind of a reason or excuse as to why that was the more efficient way of doing things. Maybe in the short term it was, maybe in the present day it was, but I didn't take as much time in their early years to teach them, to take the time and teach them. And so now we have this huge movement in our house. Our kitchen is like, I joke, it's like a beehive now. Everybody's in there doing something. My son he was learning how to use the Keurig the other day. I was teaching him how to do that, and somebody else is making a grilled cheese. Like simple stuff. But
right.
It's amazing how you can see that. You see them come alive. You see that sense of accomplishment when they start doing things for themselves. They feel so independent and self-sufficient and empowered. And I already feel that load being lighter.
Absolutely. My youngest is 3, and she is now old enough to set the table with a little bit of supervision just so she doesn't drop everything. And you should see the look on her face of accomplishment and pride. It is the cutest thing ever. And it's just a simple little task. She can set the table.
That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. I can see it. Like I can see the smile on her face and how proud she must be.
Yes, exactly. Little pigtails, big smile.
Oh,
that's awesome.
That's amazing. I think it's so important. It's teaching them life skills that, and it helps them appreciate and helps them see the value and see that, there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes in running a house or whatever it is. And again, it's such amazing life skills, planning skills, time management, executive functioning, all of those skills that they're learning through the most basic daily, tasks of daily living.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's
and if they turn out to be good cooks, it's even better, because then you get to eat their delicious food.
Oh, for sure. It's interesting. That was a perfect segue, because I was going to share this other example. I want to go back to how you talked about saying no. Mm-hmm. And I think saying no, and what I always say too, is I always talk about saying no without guilt. Because in my, early years of my transformation, I started to dabble with saying no, but I was never okay with it. I still felt like I should have been saying yes. And I could never say no without guilt. And I feel like saying no without guilt is so incredibly freeing. And you said if they come out to be better cooks. The other day, I had a situation where I needed to make a decision. My oldest is 16 and she is close to getting her license, but not quite there yet. So she's still reliant on me for transportation. And she's very busy socially. She's got an active social life. And sometimes I feel like, and we had this discussion, I told her, I said, sometimes I feel like it's this constant stream of requests. Like as a mom, I sat down and had a very authentic conversation with her. I said, I'm learning and growing every single day. When I became a mom, nobody handed me this guidebook and said, these are all the things you need to know about being a mom. I said, and sometimes I do feel overwhelmed. I'm not going to lie. There's a lot going on here. 4 kids going in a million different directions, running a business, doing a bunch of different things. So I said, it's not, when I say no, it's not that I don't want to do it for you. It's that I'm honoring myself. And I'm doing what I need to do to keep all aspects of my life in balance, some of which you may not even know about. And it's not because I'm harboring secrets. It's because you aren't aware of all of the different responsibilities that are on my plate. So we had that discussion, and you could see energetically, she was just in a different place, because it shifts from, kind of a self-centered or self-focused reaction, like, oh, mom doesn't want to do this for me, with resentment behind that, to now I understand. She was able to empathize and step into my human experience. And so my gut instinct, she asked me on Sunday, can you drive me to my friends so we can study tonight? And this was at the tail end of a weekend where we had been coming and going all weekend. And I just needed a chunk of time. And I was very close to saying no. But then I said, you know what? Maybe I could do a little barter here. Maybe I can ask her to make dinner. So I said, I can drive you. However, I have a lot going on. Can I have you help me out with some extra things around the house? And boom, like she made dinner, just oven roasted veggies and wild rice, and, just chopped up fruit for the week and did our food prep. And it was so amazing. And I wanted to go back to, it was an amazing experience, because 1, I had to talk about or think about saying no. And then 2, I empowered her further to do things and to contribute to the household. So I'd love to hear you talk a little bit more about saying no, because again, that's another thing I was late to the party on, saying no and realizing that it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
so. Let me give you an example of something I said no to recently. I've been a hockey player since I was about 13 or 14 years old, and I'm a goalie, and I just absolutely love it. I've never missed a season unless I was pregnant, and I said no to playing hockey this year. And the reason I did that was because I was, I have enough going on already between the businesses, some family health issues, all the kids. I was, my kids play hockey. I was sitting here going, I'm ready to just take a season off and say no to playing hockey. And my team understood. I've been playing with these ladies for 10 years now, and they understood. They were very nice about it. My husband was a little worried about me. He said, are you sure? Or what happened? Yeah. This is you saying this, right? Because it's something I've been passionate about. And what I found out, I do miss it a little bit, not enough to regret my decision. There's other ways I can fulfill that need to be on the ice and skating. I can take my kids to the park and I can skate with them outside. I can, I take my kids to hockey practice and I get to watch them play. I caught a little bit of the NHL All-Star game the other day and was like, oh, and that was kind of my fix. So what I found by saying no to actually playing this year is that there was other ways to get my hockey fix that are just as fulfilling than me having to show up for, 10, 20 games this year as a member of the team. And I can always go back next year and play. If I decide that it wasn't the right decision, there are ways that I can go and reverse it. And so that was something I'm glad I said no to this year, because it's working out for me and just, helping with my sanity a little bit, because it's one less place I have to be. And if I miss my teammates, I can just go to the bar with them after a game and, kind
Yep.
of do our post-game ritual. So it worked out. It was a little scary. I was kind of questioning, because I've been playing hockey for so long. It's part of who I am. Like, oh, this is going to be weird not playing, but it ended up being just fine.
I love how you've reframed
Mm-hmm.
that decision, and then what the thoughts, or things that you thought about afterwards, because I think that's so important. I always talk to people about reframing experience, and that's a change for you. That was a huge change for
Mm-hmm.
you. You were shifting from having played hockey for so long, it was woven into your experience,
Mm-hmm.
part of your life for so long. And it's so easy, I think, no matter what change we have going on in our life, to look back, to get stuck in
Mm-hmm.
looking at what we're stepping out of. And you could have
Right.
easily stayed in that space of, but I'm not playing hockey anymore. And I would have been playing hockey. Today would have been a day that I had a game or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of doing that, you looked forward. You focused on what you were stepping into, and you found ways to incorporate certain aspects that hockey brings to your life in
Mm-hmm.
different ways. And you were able to find it. And there's huge growth in that. There's huge growth in
Right.
focusing on keeping, I think that's the secret, I always say, to navigating change, is keeping your sights set on what you've stepped into, where you are
Mm-hmm.
now, rather than where we've come from. And obviously we take our life experiences with us. They make us who they are. They give us the depth and substance and richness. However, that's what will keep us stuck. So if you constantly looked at the situation from a
Mm-hmm.
place of lack, what you didn't have, what you were stepping out of, you wouldn't have been able to embrace those experiences and find places to incorporate what hockey brings to your life.
Mm-hmm.
So I applaud you on that. And do you have any comments or that you want to say about navigating change? Because I know that struck me when you were talking about that, is how quickly, or how you were able to reframe that and just
Mm-hmm.
fulfill yourself in so many other ways. So I'd love to hear what you have to say about navigating change.
So I love that you asked this. So my theory is that life is a perpetual state of change.
Mm-hmm.
Today will never be like yesterday. Tomorrow will never be like today. Like it's like, I'm not a mathematician. It's like mathematically impossible. Okay.
Right.
So you have to be comfortable with change and learn how to deal with it. The word sisu. So my business is called True Sisu Life. The word sisu is actually a Finnish word. It's spelled Sisu. There's really no direct translation into English. My mom's Finnish, so my family's part Finnish. And basically it means grit, determination, and tenacity to face life's challenges, no matter the obstacle, no matter the odds. And that is how
Yeah.
me and my family kind of approach life. We know that at times life can be hard, at times life can be easy. And if you have that grit, determined tenacity, that sisu, you can get through anything. And it's not about being Finnish, it's about overcoming. And we all have a little bit of sisu in us, and we all have the capability to overcome what life throws at us. And so I welcome change because I know I don't have a choice. I've surrendered to the fact that life will change and things will always be different than they were. And sometimes you're going to like it and sometimes you won't. And
Right.
I've just surrendered to it.
That's so powerful. That's amazing. And that's so true. It's just surrendering, just realizing that it's not just us controlling the show, but there's just a much
Right.
broader scene going on than what we can actually see and what we experience in our physical world.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to talk a little bit about, you described what the word means, and just that determination and that tenacity.
Mm-hmm.
What do you have? What can you say to someone who's just feeling like they're at their lowest? Someone who feels like their situation is hopeless. What words of wisdom can you give them to help them see that light at the end of the tunnel, that things can and will get better, and they do have the power within them to get through that experience?
Oh, that's such a great question. I would say, what action can you take now and go do it? So it might be a baby step. It might be, you're feeling low. All right, what's going to make you feel a little bit better? Just go for it. Go out for a walk. All right, great. Go walk to the end of the street and walk back. Baby steps. That's all you need to do. You don't need to go run a marathon. You don't need, you're not an Ironman triathlete. Just go walk to the end of the corner and walk back and see how you feel. All right, you feel good? Go do it again. Go a little bit further. Go to the next corner.
Mm-hmm.
Just baby steps. And just don't focus on people, okay, chunk it down. People focus on the big goals way too much, that they don't understand that, like, the little steps they need to get there. So break break your whole journey of feeling better into just little steps. Get 1% better every day. I know there's a lot of gurus out there who say just get 1% better every day, and they're right. So you don't need to, there's no overnight transformation. It'll be baby steps. Just focus on those baby steps and you will start feeling better.
Right. I love that. And I always talk to you about just, I think sometimes we try so hard, or we keep our sights on the big picture, but it's too lofty. It's too big. We don't know how to get there. We're so focused on creating that happy life. We're missing out on life as it's happening to us. Right. So I think that happy life is, like you said, the baby steps. It's about what's going on in this moment. Find a piece of joy, or find a little piece of joy, find a piece of peace, find a piece of happiness, find a piece of excitement, do something that will make you feel better, do any little thing, and just keep doing that. And before we know it, all of those moments will come together. As moments will turn into minutes, which will turn into hours, which will turn into days, weeks, months. And before you know it, that's how we create the happiness. That's how we create a happy life. And it's about, like you said, just the moment, right? It's those baby steps. Just what can I do right now to make me feel better? So I guess I love that.
Good.
What can you share about, what would you like to share about your business? Do you want to tell me a little bit about, who you work with, and maybe a typical, and I know there's no such thing as a typical day or a typical client, but is there a scenario that you want to share that you enjoy being in the most?
Yes. And so my business, it does two things, but really it gets down to one of my core beliefs. And then that is that I believe that we all have the power to take action to design the lives we want. So no matter who we are, we're usually dealt something by society, media, family, what have you, that we may or may not agree with. And if you don't agree with it, I want to help you take that action to move forward. And I do that in one of two ways. I do work with people to get over limiting beliefs, self-sabotaging behavior, so they can move on and take action. And I also work with people to transform corporate employees into entrepreneurs. So part of my personal journey was leaving my corporate job to start my own business. And I just love helping people do the same thing. And so people will come to me, either looking to leave corporate and become their own boss, or they just have, they might already be an entrepreneur, and they have, I'll give you an example, like camera fright. I have one guy who was very, very good on stage. You put a camera in front of him, he would not like it. And so he was able to clear those limiting beliefs about being on camera. And he went on to do Facebook Lives every day for a year.
Wow.
And so it's about, I've cleared a lot of things. Like I've cleared fear. Like I was very inconsistent about 3 months ago, just inconsistent in my job. And I cleared that, and I've been consistent as everything since then. And so it's really amazing what just refocusing your mind can do. But I also love the business side of things. I love digging into P&Ls. I love numbers. I love helping people grow what they see as their business idea into something that actually flourishes.
It's amazing to witness the transformation, I'm sure. I realize every situation is different, but as people are stepping out of corporate America, which is obviously a different experience, different environment than entrepreneurship, do you see some common fears that people have? I realize everyone is different, but can you talk a little bit about maybe the top few fears that people have and what you've done to help them overcome, or how you help them overcome those fears?
So fear of failure is right up there. So they're afraid their business will fail. They can't, and that will prevent them from taking care of themselves and their families and their loved ones. How I overcome that, I am a planner, and I am very good at setting plans and goals. So I help people put down very detailed plans to achieve their business goals. And something that makes me a little bit different, I'd be sure to include some feedback loops in there, because the one thing I will guarantee you is your plan will be wrong, and you'll have to change something or pivot somehow on your journey to reflect reality. And I let people know that that's okay. You don't have to have, every plan is wrong. It just is. I want you to anticipate that and expect that and account for that and make the appropriate changes along the way. And so people, that fear of failure also relates to fear of, they're afraid to change their plans because that means they were wrong. It's like,
Okay.
well, no, that doesn't mean you're wrong. It means you're smart because you're taking into account reality as it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So I reframe that for people. So I kind of came up with, my own planning system on how to make really good goals, and then like get down to those core activities you have to do every day to achieve those goals. And that is what helps people get over that fear of failure, because they know, all right, if I do this today, I will be one step closer to achieving my goal.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
What else? What other fears? What other top fears do you see?
Let's see. Fear of, it's a safety fear of not being safe, because they're afraid of haters, negativity, what their family's going to say, what their friends are going to say. So that's another fear. Also, I see a lot of imposter syndrome. So a fear of not being worthy. I had a little bit of this when I first started. My thought process was a little bit like, oh my gosh, I've been in corporate for so long, and now I'm doing this new business, and I don't know if anybody's going to like me, and just that whole monologue going through my head. So I do see a lot of imposter syndrome from people, especially who have been in the corporate world and are going into business for themselves and establishing themselves as the experts at whatever it is they're doing.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to go back and talk a little bit about, what will other people think? What will they,
Mm-hmm.
What will they approve? Because I think that our culture sort of indoctrinates in us the inclination to be concerned with that, to be preoccupied, with what will other people think? How will this be perceived? And through my journey, I've come to realize that no matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter what you think, two things will always be true. People will agree with you. There will be people who agree with you, and there will be people who disagree with you. So I've anchored on what is authentic to me, what feels right to me. And that has been a huge game changer for me, is that what other people, as long as what you're doing is in integrity, it's integrity, with who you are, and you're coming at it from a place of love and kindness, what other people think about what you're doing is pretty much irrelevant, is kind of where I've come to. As long as you're living your truth and speaking your truth and coming at it from a place of love and kindness, and you're aligned with who you are, that will just hold you back. Other people's commentary on the haters and the naysayers and all of that. And I've actually learned to not only learn to ignore it, but just to transmute it. We can actually transmute that into power. We can transmute that commentary into, okay, well, I can actually use this for fuel for my fire. So
right.
What do you have? Can you provide some words of guidance to people who may feel like they're holding themselves back?
Absolutely.
Because of other people will think, their families, coworkers, whoever it is.
People are judging you anyways. You might as well do something that makes you happy. I mean, think about it. So when I decided to leave my job and start my business, I was really worried about what my dad would say, because I'm a daddy's girl. Okay. And so I told him, and he's like, that's awesome. Good for you. Wow. And I was like, that's it? Like, yeah, that's it. So I was building, it was really nothing. It was nothing to worry about. And in that particular instance, and I was just building it up in my head for nothing and wasting my energy on it. Wow. Usually what I find, when you have haters or you have negativity, it says more about the person that's doing the hating than it does you. You're triggering them on something that they're uncomfortable with. And so it might be a good idea, if you're getting some hate or negativity thrown at you, it might be a good idea to ask them if they're okay. What about this bothers you? It's really it's one of those good opportunities for one of those tell me more questions that we all love, right. And get them to tell you more. If it's on social media, I just ignore it. Like, again, it says more about them than it does you. It's a trigger for them, not you. So right. I have a pretty thick skin. I just kind of roll with it. I know that does take some practice for some people, and that's okay. Just go ahead and practice.
Right. Right. And like you said, practice. And I think the more life experiences we have, the more comfortable we become with speaking our truth and living in that authentic place. Mm-hmm. And it's really, and that's too, and that's one thing that I've learned through my journey, is that it's more, I had this discussion with someone recently. They were experiencing some unexpected behavior with somebody in their life. And I said, it really has to do with what's going on with them, and really has nothing to do with what you said or what you did. There was no logical reason behind the reaction. And I said, it's about what's going on in their world. And people probably don't even know what that is. So all you can do is continue, honor your boundaries, but continue to just show this person love and kindness and leave yourself open and let them know that when they get through this situation, or if they need help getting through this situation, that you're there. And so, and that's the thing is, human interactions are our best teachers. They are those are the opportunities that, and I always say that anything that triggers us reveals, not to get too deep into psychology here, but there's this unconscious versus conscious parts of ourselves. And the whole idea why we're on this earthly journey is to make those unconscious parts of ourselves conscious. And every human interaction, every time that we experience something that elicits an emotional charge that triggers us, is an opportunity to go deep within and ask ourselves, why did I react that way? What can this teach me? How is this experience trying to help me with my growth and transformation? And I think those are just experiences that are rich in opportunities to grow and transform. So that's so important, though, to remember that it's about the other person. And that's incredibly freeing. It's incredibly freeing.
Yes, it is. It really is.
So what do you think, what is one of the more challenging situations that you deal with on a kind of a continual or a constant basis? What's the most challenging aspect about anything within your business, about how you balance about anything on, your home front and managing a busy household, interplay between the two? What would you say, what challenges you the most?
Oh my gosh, that's a really good question. So I would say, let me back up a second. So between my husband and I, we have 5 streams of income. So we're believers in multiple streams of income. Some of them are more advanced in their life cycle. Some of them are quite young. Okay. And so one of the challenges we have now is we're in like hyper growth mode for some of them. Okay. And so we're just that's the challenge of growing that particular business while maintaining the others. One challenge we have is we know we need, so between husband and I, we know we need some help. We just don't know what that looks like yet. And so we're having conversations on, do we hire a VA? Do we hire a nanny for the summer? Like how do we make sure we have time to be with the kids, make sure the kids are taken care of, grow the businesses, still see each other, and all that. So right now it's on the home front to make sure the home is functioning at an optimal level that works for everybody. And we don't have the solution yet. We're working on it, but and we know that it's a challenge, and it's like right front and center for us that we need some help, and we're defining what that looks like.
Okay. And I was going to say, I can totally relate. I'm going through that as well. And I think that's so important. That's such a huge step, I think, to realize that it's okay, again, to ask for help. It's okay to say, you know what, I can no longer do this all myself. And it's just incredibly liberating and empowering and freeing to ask for help and to bring in extra help and realize that, hey, other people can step in and do some aspects of what I do as well as, if not better than, I do them. And that's that was freeing for me. And again, it allows us to focus on what's natural for us, what's creative, how we add value to the world. And I think we need to really keep our eyes open and our hearts open and our souls inviting of certain experiences that put us in those places, put us in that place that allows us to use our strengths. So I know it's a tough balancing act. I go through it on a daily basis as well, just family and business and just all aspects. But I think it's so important to take inventory from time to time and pay attention and realize when things are sort of I don't like to use the word balance, because balance to me is sort of binary. You're either on the balance beam or you're not. It doesn't allow a lot of room for kind of forgiveness and compassion. I like to use harmony. So I view my life as an orchestra. So I try to keep all aspects of it going at the same time. All aspects need to be playing at the same time, but sometimes the woodwinds are more prominent. Sometimes the strings are more prominent, realizing that that's okay. And there is an ebb and a flow to life, but sometimes there are certain aspects that just need help. And I think that's awesome that you're taking inventory on that and gave yourself permission to bring in other people or whatever the solution is, but realize that you need to ask for help and seek it out.
Yes. We will be making some phone calls shortly for the help. So.
Good. I applaud you on that. We are getting ready to wrap up here in a couple minutes. So before we do, are there any parting words of wisdom that you would like to share with our audience with regard to anything, work, family, life, anything?
Oh, so as I mentioned before, one of my core beliefs and how I operate is that we all have the power to take action to change our lives and design the lives we want. So I'm a big believer in action. I love seeing people just try something, anything.
Mhm.
Like if you're stuck, just try anything and you will learn. It's okay to make mistakes. That's how we learn. Go ahead and make as many mistakes as you want and be sure you are always taking action to make yourself better.
I love that. Super powerful.
Mhm.
Thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
And again, if you could remind everybody how they can reach you if they would like to get in contact with you directly.
Yes, the best way would be to go to my website. That is www.truesisulife.com. I'm also on Facebook as Carmen Ventrucci,
Okay,
and I'm on Instagram as Carmen underscore Ventrucci.
great. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on my show. I'm so grateful that you've taken time out of your day to be here and share your words of wisdom with us.
Oh,
I would
thank you.
also
I enjoyed this.
thank you. I did as well. I look forward to staying in touch with you.
Mhm.
I would like to thank all of our viewers and listeners for being here. Time is a choice, and I'm so grateful that you've carved out time from your day to be with us. Would also like to remind you to, or invite you to be in our Facebook group. Again, that can be found at liveauthentically.today/FB, and you'll be surrounded by a group of like-minded people who are committed to their spiritual growth and transformation. So I hope you have a great day, and we will connect soon.